All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. Welcome to day 3 of this summer's online AWD 1100 C# programming class. Today, I'm going to spend about 10 minutes at the most, probably, going over the instructions for the chapters 1 to 3 pretest that I emailed to you this morning, along with the email that you see on your screen now. And then I'm going to give you till approximately 9:30 to work on the test. Now, you might get it done in 10 minutes. You might be struggling to get it done in an hour and a half. I don't really know. All right. But then at 9:30, I will go over the 4 problems on the test. I will literally do all 4 of them for you from scratch. I have not done them before. All right. So I'll be doing them, as though I was a student taking the class. The remainder of the period, as this says, will be lab time for you to study for tomorrow's hands-on test. And if you are still working on the chapters 1 through 3 written tests or homework. Remember, there are no lab assignments for chapters 1, 2, and 3. Now, tomorrow will be the hands-on test. It will be emailed to you by 7 a.m. tomorrow. All right. And I will go from about 8 till 8:10 or so tomorrow, going over the test instructions that will be taped. As soon as I get done with those instructions tomorrow, I will remain online literally until at least 2:30, but I will be available to be reached via email. All right. Tomorrow, the hands-on test will be given to you by 7 a.m. It will be due by midnight. All right. And that'll be tomorrow will end week 1 of our class. So if we take just a second here, and I don't want to take a lot of time. All right, today is day 3. On day 1, we did the course intro and we went through chapter 1. Yesterday, we went through chapters 2 and 3. All right, and in particular, we developed a console version of the Invoice app and a GUI version of the Invoice app that was in your textbook. Today is the pretest. All right, as you can see, our course outcomes here is that by the end of chapters 1 through 3, you should have at least a fundamental understanding on how to create console applications in Visual Studio and how to create GUI applications in Visual Studio. Tomorrow will be the regular hands-on test. You do not have to turn this pretest in today. Not at all. You will have to turn in the hands-on test tomorrow. All right, so with that said, let's take a quick look at the instructions for the test. There are 4 problems, or depending on your point of view, 2 problems, because you're doing the same problem for numbers 1 and 2 and for numbers 3 and 4. So create all 4 projects under one solution, just so you can see this. All right, I am going to go on my desktop right now, and I'm going to create a folder out here that I'm just going to call AWD1100 Summer 2023 Pretests. Pretests, like it to be plural, like that. All right, so AWD Summer 2023 Pretests. Then I'm very quickly, because I don't want to waste your time, going to start up Visual Studio. I am going to create a new project or solution. The first one we're supposed to create is a Windows Forms app. All right. So my Windows Form app, when I go down and look for it, there's Windows Form app.NET Framework C#. So I'm going to make sure that I've set my folder up correctly. There it is, AWD Summer 2023 Pretests. The first problem that we do on here, we are told that we should call this pretest 1-1. So guess what? That's what I'm going to do. So pretest 1-1. The solution name will just be AWD1100 pretests, like that. All right. And I'm going to click create. Now, I'm not going to do a lick of this problem now. This is where I will start up at 9:30 this morning. All right. So you are to write a GUI-based program that converts distances between feet and yards. You all know there's 3 feet in a yard. The program must contain a constant called feet per yard. You'll notice that it's in uppercase, as most constants are. You can create the constant like this in your code. Const int feet per yard equal 3. All right. So you will prompt the user for a distance in feet, as is shown right here. All right. And then once you press the button that says convert to yards, you'll display a message down below. So what do we have here? Well, this is the text for our form. This is a label. This is a text box. This is a button, and this is a label. I kept it really simple for this first example. You don't have to make a exit button. You don't have to make a clear button. So it's really pretty simple. Then go back and rewrite this exact same thing, but rewrite it as a console app and call that pretest 1-2. So again, when I get to that point here, I am going to right mouse click. I'm going to click add, new project. I'm going to make sure in here I say console app.net. There it is. I'm going to click next. When it asks for a name, I'm going to say pretest 1-2. And there will be that one. All right, so there's my first 2. Then we are told to write a GUI-based program called pretest 1-3, where, again, you will ask the user for a number in here and determine whether the number is odd, 0, odd, or even. And you'll use the modular operator. Heck is the modular operator. It's the remainder operator that we will go through in the next chapter. But if I say, what is this? If you remember this from grade school, if I said 13 divided by 2, divided by 2, well, for a while, we were told the answer was 6R1, which means that it's 6 with a remainder of 1. If I say 13% sign 2, I get 1. It's the remainder or modulus operator. So it takes and it divides this by this, and it comes up with a remainder. Why is that important? Because if you take any number that exists, I'll just call it n, and you modulo that by 2, if that equals 0, then the number is even. If you do that modulo 2 and it's equal to 1, then the number is odd. And it doesn't matter if the number is positive or negative. So finally, if n is equal to 0, then the number is neither odd nor even. So that's the logic for this. That's literally all you have to do. Now, it does require you to use an if statement like we went through in class yesterday. All right. And if you don't get it, again, I will take plenty of time to go over this. So that'll be pretest 1-3. So again, when I come out here, I now have pretest 1-1 and pretest 1-2. I will right mouse click again, choose add new project. And again, it will be a Windows form app. All right. For .NET Framework. Windows form app, .NET Framework. It's got to be in here someplace. Right there it is. Next. And this is called pretest 1-3. Click create. Oh, I created it incorrectly. Doggone Doggone it. We try that again. No, I don't want to save anything. Windows Forms app.NET Framework. It should be this one. Okay, there's that. And then finally, we're supposed to redo that one as a console app. As 1.4. So as you can see here, I now have 4. I screwed up. So, but I've got pretest 1-1, pretest 1-2, pretest 1-3B, and pretest 1-4. That is what I'm going to end up creating with you starting at 9:30 this morning. So what I'm going to do is not a bit of this. All right. I'm going to be working on something else. All right. And actually probably reading ahead and looking at the book. So what you will see on your screen now is the test. Okay. So let me even put a little sign. I don't know if it'll even show. So let's just do this. All right. So I'm going to put a little thing up here and I'll make it bigger that says, we will go over pretest beginning at 9:30 a.m. today, which is Wednesday, 5/17/2023. Okay. So this is going to remain up on your screen then, that we will go over the pretest at 9:30. It is now 8:13, just about 8:15. So you have an hour and 15 minutes to work on this. If you are working on this and you run into a problem, email me. But what I think, at least, what you're going to now see on your screen for the next about hour and 15 minutes, if I did this right. All right, I'm going to stop my regular share and I'm going to share. And hopefully now what you see on the screen is just this. We will go over the pretest beginning at 9:30 today. All right. So I will talk to you in about an hour and 15 minutes. You're going to have a lot of dead air time until then. You might hear me keying in the background or looking up certain things in the background, but this is what you are going to see. I'll talk to you in an hour and 15 minutes. Thanks. Hmm. All right, it looks like it's just about there. It goes. Went to 9:30, so it's time to go over this. So let me change my screen share and I will begin. So hopefully at least you're able to now see my screen. I have copied this material so I can put basically I can put in a comment at the start of the program, and I also copied the picture here, so I know exactly what I'm working with, and I've done the same thing for the second one. So let's get started. All right. So to start with, again, we are in pretest 1-1. So let me bring that up, and I want to make sure that's also the close a few of these things that are open here. All right, there we go. So what I'm supposed to do is, after I go and write the comments, is come in there and write this. Okay. Distance in feet, which is a label, a text box, a button that says convert to YDS, and then a text, or I should say a label message. So let's do that. And again, as mentioned, I have copied this. So I'm going to copy that again, and I'm going to put that inside of my code here. All right. So underneath these two using statements, I'm going to add a comment rather, and it's going to have in it the same thing I just showed you that I copied. Okay, so let's pretty this up a little bit. Sorry, I'm a little squirrely about this stuff, so. All right, that's everything, and it didn't take too long. So we are to create a GUI-based program. We've already created pretest 1-1, so the file is created. We want to convert between feet and yards. The program must contain a constant. All right. And the constant, well, literally, I'm just going to grab that right now and copy it. We are to prompt the user for a distance in feet. Once the user presses a button, display the difference in both feet and yards as shown. Okay, and that looks pretty much like we've got everything. So let me start by declare, if I can spell, declare and initialize program constant. Now, it's not that you have to do this, but it's kind of a convention that constants are declared at the top of the program, meaning that they're global to the program. If you don't know what that means, we're going to discuss that next week. All right. So I want to come back to here, and it's a pretty simple interface. All right. So in fact, let me grab this, cut this way the hay down like that. Let's see if we can put that over here. Now we're going to have to bounce back and forth between these, but so we want this to say distance converter. So let's change the name of our form first of all. to FRM distance converter. Okay, and I'm going to grab that text I just put in there, copy it to the clipboard. Now, when I hit enter here, it may come back with a message that says, do you want to change it everywhere, basically? And yes, I do. Always answer yes to that. All right. So then for the form, I'm going to go to the text. I'm going to change the text to distance converter, put a blank space between distance and converter. So now I've got that here. All right. So that's a start. All right. Next, when I take a look at this, all right, I need a label, text box, button, label. Oops. So let's do that next. Good golly, Jeffrey. There we go. So as always, I'm just going to make mine a little different color here. And let's start at the end. So I'll make it this purplish or whatever that is. And we could make this smaller if we wanted. I'm just going to basically set it up like this. This will be my button right here. And I believe that button is to convert. So I'm just going to call it BTN convert. And I think the text we were supposed to put in there was convert feet to YDS or something like that. Convert to YDS, no feet. So convert to yards. So we've got that. Okay. Then down below this, we're going to have a label that's going to give us the answer. So let's bring in a label. As always, I'm going to make this a different, darker color so it stands out. And I'm going to set the auto size to false so I can change the width and length of this label. Nice and big, so we'll put it about there. All right. And what else do we need here according to our picture? So we've got these two, so we need a text box and another label. Well, let's just put the other label up here. And then it said we needed a text box. Put that over here. All right, and as I've done previously, I'm going to now highlight everything here. I'm going to go to my font size, and I'm going to change it to about 24 bold and Arial. All right, there's my interface. It looks okay. Not great, not terrible. All right, so let me lock it into place. So that's done. This is my, I'll just call this LBL input. I mean, we can call it anything we want. And it's supposed to say distance in feet. So distance in feet right there. And I am going to center this like that. I'm also going to center the answer. Okay. And so we've got that. It's LBL input. That's okay, I guess. So this will be TXT. In fact, let me change this. So I'm going to call this LBL input feet. And then this can be called TXT input feet. All right. This already is called BTN convert, so that's okay. And I'm just going to call this, for making it simple, LBL answer. All right. And I'm not going to put any text in there, so I'm going to remove the text that's currently in there. All right. Now, as of right now, it won't do a flipping thing, but let's pretty it up a little bit. And what I mean is, let's click on the click right here on the form. Let's go up. We will set an accept button. There only is one. So we will set the accept button to BTN convert. We won't have a cancel button, but we will set our start position to center screen. All right. And we will also come in here, and there's only two things we really have to worry about in here for our tab order. This will be 0 and that'll be 1. All right. So let's go view tab order. That'll be 0. That'll be 1. These two don't really matter, but we'll set them to 2 and 3 anyway. So let me do a file save all. Let me run this to make sure it's in the center of the screen. And there it is. And I guess I did not yet do another view tab order, so I'll do that to close it. All right. So I want to convert to yards. I've already got my constant in here. Okay. So I am going to create a variable in here that's going to be called feet. All right. And we can set it up so that it's a double. We could make both of these or decimals. It's up to you. But I'm going to keep the feet at a yard. So I'll put the feet, 6 feet, 7 feet. I'm not going to say like 8 feet, 10 inches. But let's take this and let's make this a decimal. All right. And we'll call this yards. Pretty simple. All right. And okay, let's make two variables. We're going to make one that's going to be an int that's going to be called feet. And we'll set that equal to convert dot to int 32. We could have also done a decimal dot parse. It wouldn't have mattered. But I'm going to say in here txt input feet dot text. All right. So that's going to be our input. And then our yards is going to be set equal to feet times feet per yard. Now we've got a problem here. And the problem that we have is this is an int and this is an int. All right. So there's different ways to fix it. I'm going to probably just pick what I consider to be the easiest. I'm going to change this to a decimal. So decimal feet equal this. And this will have to be a convert dot to decimal. Now at least I am multiplying a decimal by an int, so I should be okay. All right. And all I have to say then is txt, and I'm sorry, lbl answer dot text equal yards dot to string. That actually should be the entire program. So we're going to try it and see if it works. And we'll come back and look at each line that's in here. So let me do a file save all, and let's run it, but let's first run it with something simple. All right. And I guess I wanted to center that and I didn't, but I'm going to say 3 feet. All right. So 3 feet equal 9 yards. That doesn't sound right. It should be 3 feet equal 1 yard. So if there's something wrong with my formula, something in here is wrong. All right. So feet per yard is 3. So 3 feet equals 1 yard. So it looks like I want to do a divide here. All right. In whatever I put in. Now, I forgot something, and that is it's supposed to look like this. 6 feet equal 2 yards or something along those lines. All right. So let's change that. Okay. In fact, I'm going to put another variable in here that's going to be a string that I'm going to call output str. It's going to be my output string. All right. And now I've done this. So I'm going to set output str is going to be equal to, what did we want to write again? We wanted to write blank feet equal blank yards. So feet is just that. So it'll be feet dot toString, even though I don't need the toString here, but that's okay. Equal And that's where I'll put the yards dot to string. Now I can just say LBL answer dot text equals the output str. Output str. So that's feet to string. Now, did we have the word feet? Yes, we did. Do we have the word yards? Yes, we did. So this should be feet to string plus feet equal, and let me put this over 2 lines just so you can read it. It doesn't scroll off the screen. Plus yards. Now, the easiest way to test this is to put in exactly what was shown here. So to put in a 6 and see if we get 6 feet equal 2 yards. So let's do that, and then we'll come back and look at the program again. So that's 6 feet equal 2 yards. Looks like everything is working. Now, a couple things. First, I'm going to take this. This is just a particular preference I have. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say that I want it centered. So text align will be centered. Okay, that's the first thing. All right. And I think that's it. So let's take one more look. Let's put in 27 feet, which should be 9 yards. Now, since I have set the accept button, I can also just hit enter here. 27 feet equals 9 yards. What if we put in something that doesn't go in there evenly? How about 38 feet? Now, something's wrong here. 38 feet equals, doesn't look like it worked. So let's take a quick look at it. All right. So we said decimal yards equal feet divided by feet per yard. All right. I'm going to make one of these a decimal. So I'm going to go and cast that. If you don't know what that means, we'll go over it in just a moment. All right. So feet, that was 38 divided by 3. So let's see what that does. So 38, and it still says 38 feet equals, and it's not giving me an answer. So this does not appear to be working. So we put in 38 for feet. We divided that by 3 for yards. All right. That should have put it into our decimal. This should be working. I'm not sure right now why it's not, but it isn't. Well, let's check one thing first of all, just so we know this, and that is this. Let me go back to here. Let me widen this out a little bit. Just so I'm 100% sure that we have enough room in here. All right, we'll lock this again. Let's run it again. 38. All right, there you go. That was it. We didn't have enough room to hold the answer. So let's fix this as well. Let's do this to 2 decimal places. That should be plenty. So when we're printing this out, we don't need to put this in here. And now we can say yards dot to string. And we will say in here N2, which means give me 2 decimal places. All right, so let me try it one more time. 38. That looks a little nicer. All right, now we don't have in here an exit. So we've got exit like this. We don't have a clear, but we can just change what's in here and boom, it'll update right away. All right. So let's look at the entire program, which is not very big. Now, these clicks that we've got in here, I don't know how I got those in there, but let's get rid of them. Now, if this happens and you get this extra code, don't just come in there and remove these. You will get error messages. Instead, what you want to do is this is lbl answer.click. All right, so that's there. So what I want to do to get rid of that code, because it's not doing anything, is click on here where it says answer. Click here where it shows the little lightning bolt. And somewhere over here, I've got a click event in here. I must. Well, it looks like there should have been something right there for the click event there. Is there one here? I wonder if it's because I've got this lock still. So there we go. There we go. So I don't want this anymore that says LBL answer click. So I've got to click here, click on the lightning bolt, find it here, and then remove it. And then what you'll notice is it removed it from my actual code window. So I've got to do one for the other label and one for the text box. Let's do those. Click on this label. Again, find this input, click, highlight it, hit delete. Now that one should be gone. Find the text box. All right. There's that text changed. Boom. And now that's gone. Now, when I go back and look at my code, there is no extraneous code there. All right. So the entire program can be looked at from right here. We have set up a constant. What that means is this is a variable that cannot change. It remains constant throughout the life of the program. Well, we know that there are 3 feet in a yard. That hasn't changed since I was born, and it shouldn't change out long after I'm gone. So we made an integer called feet per yard that was equal to 3. Now, I told you to make it an int. We could have just made it a decimal and made it 3.0 m. That would have been fine. Since we didn't do that, the problem we had is we were doing an int divided by an int. So what I did was I said, hey, this copy of feet that basically is what's in the text box, convert it automatically to a decimal. So again, rather than doing that, it would have been easier. I didn't tell you to do it like this, but it would have been easier to come in here and have done this. Const decimal feet per yard equal, and then I would have had to have said 3.0 m. Had we done that, had we done this, then right here, we could have come in and then put in this decimal yards equal feet divided by, and we wouldn't have had to have done what is referred to as casting. There's absolutely nothing wrong. If I remove these comments, there's nothing wrong with the way the program was done. All right. It all works and it works okay. So that's the first one. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to put it right there. All right. And I'm going to copy all of my code, even though I'll have to make changes to it. Okay. So let me copy that. And I'll put that down here. All right. And now with this copied, let me copy it to the clipboard. And now we've done our first program. All right, we've gone over the first program, which again was simple. We created an integer constant, number of feet per yard. We said that feet was equal to whatever we put into that text box. And then we said to take that number we put in and divide it by 3, and that gave us our number of yards. Then we printed out both. Okay, so that was pretty simple. So let me do a file save all here. All right. Now I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this and I'm going to open up pretest 1.2. Now for when I run it, I want to make sure that it runs. So I'm going to set that as my startup project and I'm going to come into here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, again, I won't need any of these, but I will put in using static system.console. I showed you that the other day. And then there's my comment, the same comment that we had before. No difference. All right. So let me come in here and let me grab the code. This is the code that we had before. It won't work. It's going to give me nothing but errors, but it's a starting point. All right. Again, don't worry if there's a bunch of errors in here. So we are declaring our constant, feet per yard. And even though it's totally fine to declare it inside of main, I'm going to actually go and declare it outside of main up here to make it truly global. Okay. All right. Now, of course, we don't need, I'm going to remove that. We don't need this. We don't need this or that. All right. So to start with, let's just create two variables. We'll make it a decimal this time. Decimal feet. All right. And decimal yards, not years, yards. All right. Now I'm going to get rid of all this stuff that's in here in just a second. I won't need this. I can keep that output string. Maybe that'll be nice to have that in there. I don't know. All right. Okay. So I'm going to do this right now. Now, I didn't even have to declare these like this, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, write, please enter feet, just like that. Okay. And then feet equals convert dot to decimal console dot readline. All right. So that's going to remove this then. And now my yards, I don't need to declare it again, is going to be equal to this. And I don't need to do any of this anymore, just feet divided by that. And I can say the output string that's right here, that's fine. All right, and then I can say write line, and we'll put in a couple blank lines before this, so. That should be everything with the semicolon on the end. Now I'll run it in a minute, but before I do, let's take a quick look at it. Hopefully what you notice is it's very, very, very similar to what we ran in the first place. All right, with the GUI app. But in here, I'm declaring, last time I said declare and initialize program variables. I am not initializing these. I'm just going to declare my program variables right there. All right. And then in here, I can put in input feet because that's what I'm doing. And then here I can put in do feet to yards calculation. All right. Here, what am I doing? I am preparing the output. And then here, I'm going to actually display the output. Now, I went a little nuts there with the actual comments that I put in. I put in quite a few of them, and it looks like I lost a curly brace somewhere. There we go. But let's see if it works. Now, one last thing we got to do. Remember, this will print on the screen, but then it's going to, like that, it'll flash right off. So I have to say read line here. So let's run it, see if it works. All right. And then we'll go back and take a look at it one last time here. All right, so there we have it. Remember, we did 38 before. 38 feet equals 12.67 yards. Looks pretty good to me. I might have a few too many blank lines in here, but that's still all right. All right, and cut that down to just one blank line. And that should look a little nicer then. All right, now, just like before, and I didn't show this earlier, but if I leave this blank right here, if I come in here and leave this blank, it's going to give me an error. All right. And it's going to say that it was in the wrong format. Now, hold on a second. Somebody may be joining me here. All right, good morning. I'm going over the pretest right now. I've already gone over the first one that we did, and I will go back and review it so that anybody who joined us here can watch. This is the second one. And let's just take a second and we'll go over both. Then I'll do the other two. So this was the first one that we did, the GUI version. So I made it very simple. You can see I came up here and I changed the name of the form from Form 1 to FRM Distance Converter. I changed the text for the form to Distance Converter. Then I added a label, a text box, a button, and another label. Now we're used to having labels that we set up, having on there some text, but it doesn't have to. The text will actually be written when the program runs. All right. So this is LBL input feet. This is TXT input feet. This is BTN convert. And this is LBL answer. And it's not a long program. The whole thing can be shown on the screen here. All right. So I put the whole comment in from the test page. But if we come down here, this is the program. Now, this is the first time we've looked at a constant, and I'm just introducing something that's actually going to be introduced in more depth and breadth of coverage in the next chapter, but I showed you how to use it. All right. And I even mentioned afterwards, this would have been cleaner if I'd have told you rather than making it an integer constant, I should have made it a decimal. The reason for that is this works just fine. But if I do the calculation like this right there, I'm dividing an int by an int. So even if there's a decimal answer, since it's a whole number divided by a whole number, the system throws the decimal portion away. So I have to do what's called cast the variable. It's on the right-hand side of an equal sign, so I'm not changing feet. I'm changing a copy of feet. So if I put 38 in there for feet, it becomes 38.0 that I divide by 3 to get the answer. All right. And then you just print out the output. So again, when I run this, oops, that's the other one. So let me go back and reset. So I want to click on here. I want to go back to pretest 1, right mouse click on it and choose set as startup project, because that means that's the one that'll run when the program starts. All right, here it is. If I leave it blank, the program blows up. All right, we're going to handle that, but not for a few chapters yet. But if I run that, and for example, I put in what was shown in the book, which was 6, it says 6 feet equal 2.00 yards. All right, there's no clear button in here or exit button, but I can just change this to 71. And what, 71 divided by 3 should give me like 23.67 or something like that. And it does. So that's all you had to do for this first one. And then I took it, and I'm going to save this too. I'm going to put this out in a YouTube repository. I'm going to do all that in front of you in just a couple minutes. So that was the first one. That's pretest 1.1. Then we just went over pretest 1.2, where I went and copied over the entire comment again, and then went down here. And again, this is the entire program here. Here's that constant. All right. And what I did here was I made feet, which is going to hold whatever we enter for feet. I made that a decimal, and I made yards a decimal as well, which meant that when I did the calculation, I didn't have to do that casting that you saw previously. So again, the program will blow up if I leave this blank or I put something non-numeric in it. All right. Oh, gotta tell it to run this one. So again, I right mouse click on here, choose for pretest 1-2, set as startup project, and then run this. So again, if I leave it blank and hit enter, the program blows up. All right. Again, we will fix that in a later chapter. If I run it and put in something non-numeric in here, it again blows up with the same error. We will fix that. It's coming up. But if I run this and put in again, for example, 38 feet equals 12.67 yards. All right, if I run it again and put in what was shown in the example, which was 6 feet equals 2.00 yards. Okay, and that's, again, all we were asked to do for this first example. So unless there's any questions, I'll just jump right into the next example. Again, you will get this. I'm going to show you, I'm going to save this out there and show you again exactly how to do this in just a couple moments. All right, so I've now gone through exercise 1.1 and exercise 1.2. So let's look next at 1.3. And according to our test, in that exercise, this was to be a GUI-based program, very similar to the last one. And what I mean is we have a label, a text box, a button, and another label. All right. And this is pretest 1-3. So again, it's a very, very, very similar look and feel, for lack of better words. Now, I'm going to show you something, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure if what I'm about to show you is a good thing to show you or not a good thing, but I do want you to see it. All right, and that is this. This right here that we did first, and this, the interface is almost identical. Again, label, text box, button, label. Label, text box, button, label. So even though I really wouldn't probably recommend doing this on a regular basis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up, which was the first one that we did right there. And I'm going to highlight everything that's in here like that. And I'm going to do a Control-C to copy it. All right. Now I'm going to bring up the next one, the pretest 1.3. All right, let me change the color first, because again, I hate that color. So we will change that color and I'll just make it purple. But now if I come in here and I paste, you'll notice I already have my interface made. Now, do you have to do that? Of course not. But it's one thing that if it makes sense to you to do it or you want to do it, you can. Now I'm going to have to make changes in here. Again, I don't want this to say distance in feet. I don't want that to say convert to yards, but I do have the interface built already. And that's all I wanted to say to you. You never, ever, ever have to do that. But if you are interested in doing it, it's a little bit of a shortcut, time savings, whatever you want to call it. All right, so for this second one here, don't want to do it there. I'm going to bring this way over. And notice here, okay, so this should say enter an integer, and that should have said whole number. I don't know what happened there, but that's okay. We'll fix it. And then we've got this, and then this should say show status, and that's okay. So the first thing I want to change is up here. I want it to say odd number, comma, even number, comma, or 0. So I want to change that. All right. So I'm going to first come in and I'm going to change the name of my form. To do that, I simply click on the form itself, and that's right here. Then I right mouse click on it, or just right mouse click on it to start and choose rename. Keep that .cs that's on there, but I'm going to call this FRM odd, even, or zero. Kind of a long name, but that's okay. And it comes back and it says, do you want to change the system internal files in addition? Always say yes. So that changed these. All right. So I'm getting there. And again, the next thing this is again supposed to say here is odd number, comma, even number, comma, or zero. So for our form, right there, our form text, I'm going to change that so that instead of saying form 1, it says odd number, even number, or zero. And you'll notice now that's what it says, odd number, even number, or zero. So that's done. So I've changed the name of my form and I've changed the text on the top of the form. The next thing I want to change is, first of all, I just don't think those colors look very good together. So let me change that. And again, you don't have to ever do anything with colors, but this is just what I'm doing. So I like that better. Maybe that's a little dark. So you know what I'll do? I change the background color. I can also change on here what's called the forecolor. And that's the color of the text. And I'm going to make that white. There we go. Okay, so this will be white and this will be in white as well. All right. So this one, instead of saying distance in feet, all right, this one is supposed to say enter an integer and then whole number after that. And we'll put that in right now. So we'll call this, instead of LBL input feet, I'm going to call it LBL input number. All right, because that pretty much was what we were told to do here. All right, and again, it's supposed to say enter an integer, whole number. Okay, so I'm going to change that text. We'll just say enter here, enter, I can make it a little different if I want to, enter a whole number, like that. All right, so we've got that. This will be our number. So it was called TXT input feet. I'm going to change the name to TXT input number. All right. This isn't supposed to say convert to yards anymore. It's supposed to say show status. All right. So we will call this button here BTN show status. And then down here, we will change the text on the button to show status. All right, that's looking okay. Finally, this is now called LBL answer, and that's fine. We'll leave it like that. So we now have our interface has been built. All right, I can come here. I only have one button, so I can set my accept button. All right, and I will set that to BTN show status. There is no cancel button. I will come down here and I will find my start position and I will change that from the Windows default location to center screen. And then finally, I want to set the tab order here. It's pretty simple. There's only 4 controls, period. It will be 0 and 1. These are the only 2 that matter, but I'm going to set it as 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to do a view, tab order, 0, 1, 2, 3. Do tab order so those numbers go away. Now, it won't work yet, but let's save it and let's run it. Oops, again, I have to set my start project. Sorry about that. And there it is. So that looks pretty good right now. Again, I can put anything I want in here. Nothing will happen because I haven't put any code in yet. All right, so let's figure that out. Okay, it's actually very simple. Okay, and what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to say int number equal convert dot to int 32 txt input number dot text. What that says is I want to grab whatever was put into that text box and attempt to convert it to a whole number. And that's it. All right. Now I'm going to make another variable that's going to be a string, and I'm just going to call it output str for output string. All right. So I've got an int, and that's basically my input, and I've got an output string. Why did I do that? I want to show you. All right. So I want to go and take that number and modulo it by 2. If you say, what is that? I'm going to show you in a minute. All right. But I'm going to come in here with another int, and I'm going to call this result. Oops. Result equals, and I'm just going to say number modulo 2. All right. Now, you may or may not remember this back from like grade school. I'm going to put something on the screen here, but I'm going to get rid of it right away. But when I was a kid and you did something like this, if I did like 13 divided by 2, all right, something like that, the answer would be equal to 6R1, which means the answer is 6 with a remainder of 1. All right, why am I even telling you that? I'm telling you that because what modulo does, it's the percent sign operator. It gives you that. It gives you what the remainder is. All right, so that's why we're using that here. It's just a little kind of simplistic. So to say number divided by 2, what's going to happen is any positive number divided by 2 will give me a remainder of 0. Any even number divided by 2, any even number, if you divide it by 2, it's going to give you a remainder of 0. Any odd number that you put in with the remainder of 1 is going to be an odd number. So like if I take 37 modulo 2, 37 divided by 2 is 18 with a remainder of 1. So it's an odd number. If I take 36 and divide it by 2, it's 18 with a remainder of 0. So it's an even number. And that's it. All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say if result is not even be that. If number, which is the number we put in, if that's equal to 0, all right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. So if that's the case, I am going to set my output string to be equal to 0 is neither even nor odd. So if this number that we put in here is 0, doesn't matter what the result is. It's not even and it's not odd. All right. Otherwise, so else if result, it doesn't matter which one I do first. If it's equal to 1, then I want to say that the number is odd. All right. And I think, how did I word that in here? I want to make sure I do it the same way. The number blank is an odd or an even number. So this should say output string equal the number, then followed by the number itself. So number, we can say dot toString here. We really don't have to, but it's a good practice to do it. All right. And then I'm going to say is an odd number. All right. And then finally, I'm going to say else if result equal 0, well, then we know it's an even number. So I just grab that text there, put that in, and say even. Just like that. Now, all I have to do is in my answer area, which was LBL answer.text, is I have to put in there output, str. Now, what output str, probably wants me to do this, equal that. There we go. Let me run it, and then we'll go back and look at the entire program. All right, so File, Save All, and now let me run it. Now, if I put nothing in here, the program blows up. All right, we already mentioned that. If I run it again and I put something non-numeric in there, the program blows up. We will fix that in a few chapters. But if I run this, let's look at all of them. If I put in 0, it says 0 is neither even nor odd, exactly what it's supposed to say. If I run it again and put in 371, which is an odd number, it says the number 371 is an odd number. If I run it again, and I don't even have to stop and run it again, I can just change the number here. Let's put in 6. 76. We have now met all of the program requirements. So let's take a quick look at the code that's in here. Right? Now, this line right here, I'll put comments throughout this whole thing. Convert contents of text box to an integer, which is a whole number, and store the result in the variable number. That's exactly what this is doing. This is literally just going to hold the answer. I don't even know if answer is right. Hold the string that will go into the LBL answer label. That's it. That's what that's doing. And this will divide number by 2, keeping the remainder and putting the remainder into variable result. All right, again, I'm going a little nuts here with the comments, but I want you to be able to see what is going on throughout the entire process here. All right, so we've got that. So here, check for 0, which again, not odd, not even. Okay, and that's what that did. Okay, so here we are checking for odd number, which meant result was equal to 1. And finally here, we are checking for an even number, which meant the result was equal to 0. And here, we are, for lack of better words, we will put the result into the LBL answer label. Now, I can't really be much more clear than that. All right, there were no constants in this example, so everything is in here. It's all inside of the button's click event. So we declare 3 variables, number, which as it says, converts whatever we put into that text box into an integer, or at least attempts to convert it, and it stores the result, all right, into number. This will hold whatever we end up putting into our answer label at the bottom. All right. This is actually grabbing whatever number we put into that text box, and it's dividing it by 2, but only keeping the remainder. That's what modulo here does. If we had put a slash in there, that's a regular divide like that. We don't want that. We want the remainder. Then we check And if the number at first was 0, I could have even checked this up here if I wanted to. All right. Rather than doing this calculation always. But if the number was 0, we just say 0 is neither odd or neither even nor odd. All right. If we get down to here, we put in a number that wasn't 0. So if we come down to there and if we do the division and the remainder of the division was 1, we know the number was odd. So that's what we do in lines 40 through 44. If we do the division and it came back even, meaning the result was 0, we know that it's an even number. Then we just put that in here. All right. Now, again, these are all gray, meaning they're not used. So I can come in here and do that. It doesn't hurt anything. The other thing that I did, and I forgot to do it, and that is this. Just come in there and let's put this in as a comment. All right, so I'll put that in here. It's going to look ugly for a second, but we'll pretty it up. And that's it. All right. So that's everything right in there. And what I'm going to do is rewrite this right now as a console application, and that's pretest 1.4. So to do that, the first thing I want to do is I want to grab this. That's my comment, and I'm going to fix that comment that I had here by that. And then the next thing that I'm going to do underneath that, I'm just going to grab all the code that I have. So I can use most of it. I'll have to change some of it. We don't have text boxes anymore and labels, but the logic is the logic, whether it is a program that is a graphical user interface or GUI program, or if it's a console application. All right, so let me grab this, which is our comment. And now I'm going to bring up the last one. So I can close this and this. Now, if you're ever asked like this, do you want to save? Yeah, I do. So save, and I'm going to close that as well. All right, so I've now written pretest 1, pretest 2, or 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. The reason this is called 1.3b is I screwed it up the first time, and just to keep it simple, I did it like that. Now, pretest 1.4, which is going to be our console we're going to write, we're going to set that as our startup project right away. All right, and then we're going to come into here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I don't need any of these, so I'm going to remove all of them, but I am going to add using static system.console. All right, and then I'm going to go and paste in, there's my comment. All right, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add all that code that I just put in. Some of it won't work and it'll show errors on the screen. We'll fix it up in just a matter of moments. All right, but let me grab that code, which is right here. Just grabbing everything, again, even though some of it makes no sense, and putting it in. And it will give me a bunch of errors. All right, so now where I've got int number equal convert, all I'm going to put in here is just int number. So, and that's basically, again, that's going to be the number to input. Okay, this output string, I'll keep that. Okay, and this result, I can actually keep that as well. All right, so, but now notice it's giving me a problem because it says you can't assign an unassigned local variable. So it's telling me that this does need to have something there. So that's all fixed. All right. Now, before I even get to this stuff, and I don't need that anymore. All right, but before I get to this stuff, there's one thing we have to do. We have to tell the user to actually input a number. So I'm going to say right here, input any whole number. All right. And now I'm going to say number equals convert dot to int32 console dot read line. Now you might find that confusing, so let's break it down. All right. This is the number. It's going to say on the screen, input any whole number with a blank space. Put in 47. 47 is what gets put in here. That's what we read in. Then we convert it, or at least attempt to convert it, to a whole number and assign the results to the word number. Very similar to what we did just a couple minutes ago, but rather than putting it into a text box, we're doing it on screen. All right. This output string is still going to hold the string. We still want to do the division here. We still want to check, and now we'll say 0 is neither even or odd. The number, all this stuff is fine. There's only two more things we have to do here. We have to come in here and say display output, and that'll just be right line. Oops, do it backwards. The output string. And if we run it now, it'll work, but it'll fly right off the screen. Because typically when you do these console apps, at the end, you put in console dot, well, now you don't even need the word console anymore. Just read line. All right, let's see if it works, and then we'll go back and look at everything that's in here. So I'm going to do a file save all. Always a good idea to do that before you run a program. I think I've changed my start, but I'm going to make sure by right mouse clicking on here and choosing 1.4 as set as startup project. All right. So let's run it. You can see again, enter any whole number. If I put in 0, 0 is neither even nor odd. That's good. If I run it again and put in 37, the number 37 is an odd number. That looks good. And that means if 37 is odd, then 38 should be even. And it is. Again, the program will blow up if I come in here and leave this blank. Okay. Or if I run it and put in something non-numeric here, it blows up. We will fix that. I think it's about chapter 8 or 9. I don't know. Maybe it's even later, or earlier, but we will fix that. All right. So looking at this program right here from top to bottom, here we're creating a variable and initializing it. Here we're creating a variable and initialize it. Here we're creating a variable and we're initializing it. All right. Technically, we don't need this line of code right here, just so you know that. I could take this line here and comment it out, and then I'd have to put the word int right here. All right. What's the difference? If I did it the way that I did it up here, okay, then I don't need to redeclare it there. That gave me an error when I tried to redeclare it. All right. It's one more line of typing. Some people think it's easier to read the way I'm showing it. Some people prefer it the other way. All right. So we are telling the system right in here to input a number. Okay. That's what we're telling it to do right there. Input any whole number. Now, just so you know, the program will again blow up. Let's say I put in pi, 3.14159. I hit enter. It blows up. Why? It blows up because I have put in a non-integer, a non-whole number value, and I'm attempting to convert it to a whole number value. It does not throw away the decimal point, and that's what makes it blow up. All right, my internet connection was flaky for a moment, sorry. We really didn't even need that though, but there's a lot of different ways that this program can be written. And what I'm doing here is I'm showing you one of the ways. Now, I want to mention a couple things to you because this will help with the test tomorrow. Let me go back to the previous one that we just did, the GUI one, and look. You will be expected tomorrow to be, and the only way I can force you to do this is to make it worth points. So you will be expected tomorrow to, if you've got multiple buttons here, to set one of them as the accept button, a different one as the cancel button. I even tell you which ones to set. I expect you to use good names. Labels should start with LBL. Text boxes should start with TXT. Buttons should start with BTN, etc. So you're going to be asked to do that. And you will be asked to also set the tab order like I showed you, where we did the view tab order. Okay. I have no problem when people are running or are creating the test for themselves. If you email me and say, hey, I've got a question on this, I will look at the question. Let's talk about an acceptable question. Okay. When you explain this, Mr. Scott, in class, I think this is what you meant. Am I correct? That's a fair question. An unfair question is, hey, if I turn my test in right now, can you look at it and tell me what my grade will be? I don't do that. All right. It will be expected that you will have the test turned in by midnight tomorrow. All right. So let's talk about how you're going to do that. But before we do, let's take everything that we've just done today. So again, I'm going to do a file, save all. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. I can close everything now. That's not a problem. But I'll just keep it right here for a second. So those are our pretests. Okay. I put this into a folder that I called AWD1100 Summer 2023 Pretests. Right? Like that right there. Why am I telling you that? I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to double click on this folder, and there it is. And there's my projects that I did. Okay, don't worry about this 1.3. There's nothing in there. It's an empty project, but it's okay. So I'm going to come in here now, and I'm going to right mouse click in here and choose Git Bash here. This brings Git up. And right now I do not have a Git folder. So I'm going to type in Git init and hit enter. And when I do, up here, you're going to see a folder that says .git. There it is. Now I want to take everything that I've just done and I want to add it to that Git folder. So I come in here, let me just clear the screen, and I say git add dot. That means add everything. To show you what is going to happen there, if I type in git status right now and hit enter, there's a bunch of stuff in here that's red. That means that it's, for lack of better words, it's kind of out in purgatory. It hasn't been added yet to my actual project, my Git project. So I'm going to do that now by doing a git add dot. Now when I type git status, you'll notice that the stuff before that was red is now green, and it's been expanded to show me everything that's about to be added. All right. So then the next thing that I do is I say git commit -m, and then it expects a message. And I'm going to say here, chapters 1 through 3 pretest. And I'm going to put today's date in here, which is Wednesday, 5/17/2023, and put that inside of double quotes and hit enter. And now it's showing me what it's about to add. Now, I'm almost done, but not quite. This right here does not exist in the land of GitHub. What do I mean? I'm going to go out here and I'm going to go out to github.com, and I'm going to tell it I want to create a new repository. I can click the new button here, or I can click the plus sign there and click new repository. I'll just click this one right there. There it is. I want to make a new repository. I'm the owner, and it is to be called AWD1100 Pretest. It tells me that that's available. In other words, I have not created another GitHub repository with that name. All right. I make mine public. You make yours private and give me an invite. We're going to look at that in just a minute. All right. So I make mine public and I come down here and I click create repository. When I click that, you're going to see my screen is going to change. Now it comes up and it says, hey, this is where your project lives. So now GitHub knows that, but I have to go back to Git where I just was, and I have to copy in this line. How do I know that? Because if I go back to where I just was here and I type in this, let me clear the screen. If I type in git remote -v, that asks me where this lives, and it doesn't have a place yet. But when I add this line right here and hit enter, now when I type in git remote -v and hit enter, now it's telling me, oh, that's out on GitHub in JP Scott Rankin, and it's in a repository called AWD1100 Pretest Git. Now I have to actually go and send those files there. So let me clear again, and I say git push -u origin. Now, you'll probably have to say main there. I say master, all right? What happened was a few years ago, GitHub changed from the word master to the word main because master was considered politically incorrect. People who had created their GitHub accounts earlier, master stayed. I don't know why it does that. I've tried sending an email in to GitHub and didn't get a response. So now with this git push -u origin master, when I hit enter, it'll spin for a second, and now it's added it. How do I know that? I go back into GitHub, and you see my screen right here. If I refresh, there you go. There's pretest 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. So they are now out there. So if you want to be able to grab that information and look at those files yourselves, then what you do is in your address bar, you will put in this, and I'm going to make it bigger so you can read it. You have to put in that. Probably would work without this at the beginning, but you can put the whole thing in. GitHub.com, JP Scott Rankin, that's me, AWD1100 Pretests. If you put that in there into your address bar and hit enter, it should come up and look like this. Then if you want to copy this, you click where it says code in this green button, and you go down to the bottom and you choose download zip. And then in your downloads folder, you will now have a zip file that is called AWD1100 Pretest Master. All right. If you right mouse click on that and choose extract all and click extract, then it will open it up and you'll have the file right there that's got everything I just did in there for you. Now, if you go, well, that's all fine, dandy, whatever, you did that so fast, I didn't understand 3/4 of it. That's why the other day, I want to find this, but that's why the other day I sent you, let's see, it's in here someplace. Well, let me just bring it up here, but I know I sent it. All right, I will open it up right now and I will open it up also again tomorrow. All right, but it's over here someplace. So let's see. I sent you this the other day. Okay. You only have to do this once. If it comes back, then you've got get loaded. I told you you'd have to add this with your own name here, and you'd have to add this, and please use your rank and email address. You only have to do this once. Every time you want to go and do a get init, you need to put in that command. That creates the local .git folder on your computer. When you want to go and add things to that folder, you do a git add dot. When you want to commit things so that you're almost ready to go and send that thing out, all right, to GitHub, you put git commit -m and you don't put the word message in there. You should put something in there that makes sense. This is what I copied over from Git. All right. It didn't look like this. It actually had the URL in it. All right. Then you can check after you paste that in with this command to make sure it works. Now, don't worry, this is only if you make a mistake, so don't worry about that. All right. And then to actually send this back out to GitHub, you do this. Yours may be master, yours may be main. I don't know. Now, if you look right here, it says how to give an invite to the instructor. You will have to take a look at this. Now, am I asking you to do a lot? Probably for just starting a class. Yeah. All right. So let me put that in here. It's the same URL you have. Okay. And it says inviting collaborators to a personal repository. All right. And all I can tell you on this is the steps for doing it are right here. They won't make a lot of sense until you do them. Okay. So it's tomorrow. It is Thursday. You were working on the test, you worked on it for a couple hours, you're pretty confident, everything looks like it's working. Man, this is great. I'm really, really happy. You go in and none of this stuff works. Your Git doesn't work, your GitHub doesn't work, you feel like crying or you feel like swearing, all right? And if that happens, email me at jpscott@rankin.edu and I'll try to work you through it. Now, you say, I don't want to do that. Is there anything else I can do? For the first test only, what I do let you do, if you need to, all right, you'll notice that right now this file, it's not that big. It's about a meg, all right? So your first test is going to be about that size. If all else fails and tomorrow you are not able to get Git and GitHub to work, even after I help you, what you can do then is grab your folder that's got the stuff in it, right mouse click on it, and choose send to compressed folder, and it'll put yours into a zip folder. And you can email me that zip folder. All right. Now, I don't really want you to do it like that. All right. Instead, you should be using this AWD summer with your name on it. And in there, in that folder, all right, when you open it up, you should come in there. And if you look, we've got homework, we got labs, we've got slides, we've got student download. We don't have a folder in there called what? HOTS. That's what you're taking tomorrow, a hands-on test. So inside of, make that HOTS folder, and that's where you should end up putting all of your tests into. I'm going to run over that with you tomorrow morning as a class. By 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, you will have the test. I will email it to you. Then starting at 8 o'clock, and just like always, it will be taped, but starting at 8 o'clock, I will take approximately 15 minutes to go over the entire test with you. And if something doesn't make sense, feel free to turn your mic on and ask. All right. So, other than that, and I've shown you where the pretest is, I sent you the pretest this morning. I created the pretest for you and put it out there, and I showed you also where that is. All right. And you've got some time now. You can study if you do want to or whatever, but the rest of the period today is lab. So far, all right, the first day we had class on Monday was a get acquainted day, and we went over chapter one, and we did write a few programs kind of together as a class. Then yesterday, I went over chapter two, and in chapter two, they showed you how to set up that invoice totals form. Then in chapter three, they showed you how to code that invoice totals form. We did that. We even went back and redid this invoice totals form as rather than having it as a GUI app, which we did to begin with, we went back and rewrote that as a console app. And while we did that, we also completed chapter two and chapter three of the test. Today, day three, all right, I spent the first 10 minutes or so of class going over the instructions for the pretest that I gave. Then there was dead air for about an hour and 20 minutes. And now since 9:30, so approximately the last hour and a half or the last hour and 20 some minutes, I have gone over the pretest, writing it from scratch. Remember, as it says here, your chapter one, all right, written test. There are no labs for chapters 1 to 3, just the couple homework problems. And I did those for you yesterday. We went over the written tests for chapters 1, 2, and 3 yesterday. They're all on the recording for the video for yesterday. All right. So again, today we completed the chapters 1 through 3 tomorrow. Last time then, by 7 a.m., you will have the hands-on test sent to you. At exactly 8 a.m., I will spend no longer than from 8 a.m. till 8:15 a.m. going over in detail the instructions for the test. All right. You are to have that test completed and saved to a GitHub repository and give me access to it by midnight tomorrow night. As always, then, with tomorrow, if you have any questions, you can email me. All right. Not only that, if you've got questions and something just really is goofed up, I can set up an individual one-on-one Teams meeting with just you, and none of the rest of the class can hear it or see it or whatever. And I can work one-on-one with you that way. All right. As always, though, if you've got any questions, either today on something we did, or tomorrow while you're taking the test, or even tomorrow after you take the test, jpscott@rankin.edu. We only meet Monday through Thursday, so of course there's no class Friday. And then starting next week, because people always ask this, okay, when are we going to get the test back? Well, typically what I do is I'll grab the test itself. So this is the pretest, but I'll grab the test and I'll show you where you lost points or didn't lose points, etc. Now, if for some reason any student fails to take the test tomorrow, I don't mean that you failed the test, but I mean that they do not complete the test tomorrow. I can't go over it until everybody has completed it. All right. So on Monday of next week, we will jump right into chapter 4, which will talk about numeric and string data. And if you remember, in day one, I created a payroll program and we did it as both a console app and as a GUI app. So we're going to add some stuff to it right there. And then the next day we'll go over chapter 6 and do the same thing. All right. Then on Wednesday of next week, so a week from today, we'll have another pretest. And a week from tomorrow, you'll have another hands-on test. And I know that to many of you, it may seem like, man, this is rush, 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 rush. Believe me, the second half of the book is much more difficult. So we need to get as far ahead as fast as we can. All right. To make sure we have enough time to get through the whole book. Finally, the last thing I'll tell you is a week from Monday is Memorial Day. Not next Monday, but the following Monday. The 29th, there are no classes that day. The school will be closed. So the week of the 29th, we will only meet the 30th, the 31st, and June 1st. All right. So that's all that I've got. Again, if you have questions, feel free to ask, feel free to email me, get a hold of me, etc. All right. So with that, I will talk to you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Have a terrific rest of the day. Thank you.